There's now an exclusive interview with Sky Sports yesterday. Ivan Toney gave the biggest hint yet that he wants to leave Brentford. He told us he has ambitions of playing for a top club, fighting for titles, and even suggested that a move could come during this transfer window.
Well, I don't know. You can never predict when's the right time to move elsewhere. But I mean, it's obvious that I'd like to play for a top club. Everybody wants to play for the top clubs, fighting for titles and these kind of things. So whether it's this January, the right time was to be, a club was to come in and pay the right money, who knows? But my main focus is doing what I do on the pitch and let the background work take care of itself.
I mean, I have to say, I have listened to you speak in another interview quite recently where, I mean, to make no bones about it, you are a very, very ambitious footballer. You were talking about wanting to be England's number 9, and you said it in a really respectful way to Harry Kane. You know how good he is, but that is like the benchmark you set for yourself.
Of course, to be the best, you have to play with the best and then compete against the best. We all know Harry Kane is one of the best strikers in the world, and he's been doing it for some years now. So if I want to be the England's number 1, then I have to compete against him. And I mean, he's not a bad striker to be taking tips off and be training with. So yeah, I just got to keep scoring goals, keep playing well, and who knows what can happen. And if I just fall short of that, then hopefully I'll become the second best in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it all sounds daft to say, but are you anywhere in your mindset you thinking this could still be a decent season? There's time, score goals, keep Brentford up. There's Euros coming up in the summer. You know, so with all this ban, either side of it, you have a 20-goal season and hopefully a season now that ends well as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have a target on how many goals I want to get, and if I hit that or get close to that, then I feel like it's still a good season for myself. And like you said, the main focus is keep Brentford up, which I'm sure we'll have no troubles in doing because we have more than enough in the squad to do that. And everybody doesn't. We are kind of in a relegation battle, but everybody knows we're capable of getting back to where we should be, which is climbing the table and up in the top half. But yeah, we just got to focus on what we can do, not focus too much on what if we got relegated, what if we go that. Like, the more you think of negative things, the more it's likely to happen. So we're still positive thinking around the ground. Everyone's still in happy moods. If anyone's in the mood, then I'll get them out of it sharp.
So Ivan Toney speaking there, saying that it's obvious that he'd like to play for a top club, and if someone was to come and pay the right money in January, who knows, is what he said. Flex, what did you make of that interview?
Yeah, I think it's Ivan Toney just reaffirming, obviously, his aspirations to want to play at the top level. I don't think that's any secret to anybody who's been looking at Ivan's journey. Thomas Frank, you know, famously quoted sort of 100 million on, I think it was Monday Night Football, sort of saying the type of player Ivan Toney is.
Is he worth that?
Well, he is worth that to Brentford, absolutely, especially if they want to retain their Premier League status as well. So, absolutely, in today's market, and to Brentford, who he scored so many goals for, and they're looking to stay in the league, he absolutely is. I think it's important to note that he's also said many times that he wants to repay the Brentford fans. He wants to get back to playing football. And even towards the end of that clip that we just saw there as well, reiterating the fact that the feeling's good around the training ground. You know, they can have the second half of the season and get away from that relegation zone. And one thing you do know when Ivan Toney is on the pitch for Brentford, regardless of, you know, the conversations that happened around him, is that he's going to be committed. He is going to score goals. And, you know, likening himself to Harry Kane and wanting to aspire to be that good, I think is really refreshing. We want to see footballers come out of their shell and explain how they're feeling, and I think Ivan Toney's done just that. As you can see the pictures there of he's back. That's exactly what Brentford, the club, and obviously the fans feel about having Ivan Toney back. So I think it's I think people will home in on obviously that specific line, which rightly so. He wants to play at the top level. We know that, and I think it's probably only going to be a matter of time in the future. But right now, you can see that he really wants to be at Brentford at this point in time and make sure that he does his job, which is score a whole load of goals for Brentford.
Yeah, the Brentford fans obviously so excited to see him back. They backed him throughout his 8-month ban. If you were a Brentford fan, Ellen, watching that interview, How would you have felt?
I think there was a lot of excitement, wasn't there? Yesterday we saw the billboard, everything on social media, this idea of his Freedom Day, you know, he's back. And then I think that line that everyone has hung on, top club, I think that would sting a little. But I still do believe, like Flex says, the overriding feeling will just be excitement to have him back. You know, they've seen what he can do. Brentford in this less than desirable position. I know the top three have been, or the bottom three even have been the bottom three for the majority of the season, but they're only 3 points above the drop zone. They don't want to get dragged into a relegation battle, and he could be the man. And I think I've put a lot of money on him being the man to steer them away from
be
that.
down there had Tony
No,
been
exactly,
playing.
exactly
not,
that. Exactly that, which is why I think we'll obviously talk about it, but they can't lose him, from my point of view, in this window. He's going to give everything for the rest of the season. He's spoken, obviously, there about his ambitions to play for England. In the future, he wants to be England's number 9, but he'll want to be catching the attention of Gareth Southgate, because he hasn't had, you know, like we know, the first half of the season to be banging in and on course for a 20-goal a season this year. So he'll want to be doing everything he can to prove himself to the England manager, and that benefits the Brentford fans. So they'll just be excited to have him back, I think.
Well, Dan, you've been crunching some numbers to prove just how important Ivan Toney is to Brentford.
Yeah,
what have you got for us?
Yeah, Ivan Toney, he talks the talk, but he walks the walk as well. And I'm going to walk
So
over.
you, Dan.
I'm going to walk over to the big screen now and talk about Ivan Toney. I mean, it's dead right, the guys. I think if Ivan Toney comes back for the second half of the season and he stays fit, there's absolutely no chance that Brentford will be in any relegation trouble at all, because he's proven already, you know, what a goal scorer he is in the Premier League. His first season, he kept them up, you know, scored a lot of goals, but it was the second season in the Premier League last season, helped Brentford to their highest ever finish as a club. 20 goals, you know, just look at the company that he's keeping there. Scored more goals than Mohamed Salah for Liverpool last season, the third top scorer in the Premier League. And like I say, Brentford had their best season that they've ever had. They're a really, really good team, Brentford. They've got some really good players. They've always recruited well, even in their championship days, always sold well as well, and managed to build different teams. But it's been clear this season when Tony's been missing, they've missed that 20-goal-a-season striker hasn't been there. Yes, they've had injuries, but with Ivan Toney there, I think they'd be a lot higher in the league. His record last season, 33 games, 20 goals, 4 assists. And yes, he's only got 4 assists. But actually, if you look at what he does game to game, he does create a lot of chances. He brings players into the game as well. And I think that's what impresses me most about Ivan Toney. And he talks about Harry Kane in that interview there. I'm going to show how unbiased I am here in that, you know, Ollie Watkins is the second striker to Harry Kane at the moment in the England squad. For me, I think that man should be Ivan Toney, because I think he does all the things that Harry Kane does. Not quite to the level that Harry Kane does, but I don't think he's too far off. And I think since he's become a Premier League player, the way he's kind of changed his game to become that all-round centre-forward that does link the play. He's a great passer. I think we even saw him scoring free kicks last season as well. I think he's the complete number 9. And I actually think for Brentford now, the fact that he is refreshed at a time when we're seeing a lot of Premier League players lost due to injury, a lot of players, you know, going down long term, the fact that they're going to have a fresh Ivan Toney coming into their side for the second half of the season, I'd back him to get double figures, guys. I think he'll get double figures. I think he'll hit at least 10 goals in the Premier League this season.
He says he has his target, doesn't he?
Yeah,
already?
I mean, his target's probably higher than that.
Yeah.
He's a confident boy, and some people will say that it comes across as arrogance. I don't think it does at all. I just think he absolutely backs himself, and I find his honesty really, really refreshing.
Yeah, and if he was to go, Flex,
Yeah.
where does this leave Brentford? Do you think it's essential that they bring in a player to replace him if they don't want to get dragged into a relegation battle?
It's unthinkable for him to go in January from a Brentford perspective.
It's not worth it, is it? Because that 100 million, that's nothing if they go down.
Exactly. And how quickly would they be able to reinvest that 100 million with the correct planning and find the right player to replace Ivan Toney with not too long left in the window? That just cannot happen for Brentford right now. I think Thomas Frank knows exactly that can't happen. Brentford are aware that can't happen. And obviously, I think Brentford fans also know that can't happen, especially with big injuries that they've had themselves. Thomas Frank said it in the press conference that, you know, we speak about a lot of the bigger clubs who have had a lot of injuries. But if you're looking at Brentford, they've had an awful lot of injuries as well. So leave them with a huge hole to fill.